Hi Pankhurst class, this is your Friday maths lesson. You're nearly there, it's nearly half term, you're doing so well working from home. I know it is really hard for some of you, so you're doing a fantastic job. So today's lesson is lesson 5 and we are reading and interpreting information from tables. Now the date today is the 12th of February 2021 and we discussed this in this morning's lesson in the live session, but the date today is a special word that we use, and we said it's because you can look at it from either side. So it goes 1 and 1 on each side, then it's a 2 and a 2, and then it's a 2 in the middle. And I wonder if any of you can remember what it is. I'd like you to start off top of your math lesson today, underneath the date, to write down what we called it. It began with a P, and some children discussed it with me this morning about what it's called when we look at it, and we can look at it from the same from each side. The same as the word mum, M-U-M, M, and U in the middle. You can look at it from both sides, it's the same thing. So I'd like you to have a think of what that word is and write that down. Okay, then we're going to have a look today at interpreting and reading information from tables. And we've been looking at tables this week. We've been looking at tally charts, pictograms, bar charts, lots of different things and lots of information. So we're going to be interpreting and reading information from those today. So you need to have a whiteboard and pen with you or a piece of paper and pencil, and we're going to have a look at some information together, and then you're going to do some by yourself. So we're going to be reading a table, and I'm going to explain to you how you can read the information from the table. We're going to be identifying key information on a table, and then we're going to add or subtract the relevant data. So data is another word for information. So let's start with our starter first of all. We've got 4 questions, and I'm going to zoom in for us so we can see it a little bit clearer. Okay, so the first question says, how many more children have brown eyes than green? So you've got brown, the bar for brown is here. You can see what number it's going up to, and green is here, and it's in between the 2 and the 4. So how many more children have brown eyes than green? So I'd like you to pause the video and work through that one for me. Okay, so if brown eyes goes up to the 8 and green eyes is between the 2 and the 4, that must mean it's at 3. How many more? So you can put 3 in your head and you can count on until you get to 8, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So you've got 5 there, 5 more. Or you could have done 8, take away 3, also would have done it as well. However you worked it out. So I don't know if you got that right. Okay, question 2. What is 50p more than £3.65? I'm going to let you do that one by yourself, and we'll go over the answers for these in a moment. £3.65, you've got to think of 50p more than that. So if you want to, you can turn the pounds and pence into pence first. You can do this on a number line, or you can do it by writing them underneath each other and adding them together. Question 3, you need to divide 72 by 4. So in this one, you might need to draw 4 circles and share 72 if you need to, or you might need to count your 4s, however works best for you. And then the last question, it says write 572 in words. Okay, so I'd like you to pause the video and get all of those done first, and we'll go over the answers next. Okay, so hopefully you've done those 4 questions. Let's have a look at the answers. So like I said, it was 5 more children. 50p more than £3.65 is £4.15. So remember, there's 100 pennies in a pound. So if you needed to, you could do 365 pence, which is £3.65 as pence, and add 50p. That would get you 415, which is £4.15. Question 3. Divide 72 by 4, you get 18. And hopefully some of you can check that. If you did 18 times 4, it would get you 72. That's how you could check that, by doing the inverse. And then 572 is written as 572. If you've got any of those words spelt wrong, it doesn't matter. As long as it looks or sounds like 572, then that's fine. Try to learn our spellings for our numbers though. But if you've got any of those spellings wrong, wouldn't you still get that mark as long as it looked like it said that? Okay, let's have a look at our information. So this is one you're going to do with me. So this table shows which teachers own different types of pets. So you've got a cat, a dog, a rabbit, a snake, and a bird. And you've also got the teachers. So you've got Miss Williams, Miss Lewis, Miss Amanpour, Miss Gossage, and Mrs. Mirza. And the columns are ticked. So according to this table, Miss Williams has got a cat and a dog. I have got a dog and a snake. Miss Amanpour has got a rabbit. Miss Gossage has got a dog and a bird. And Mrs. Mirza has got a cat and a snake. Now, these aren't all necessarily true because I don't have a dog or a snake, thank goodness. But this is what the table is telling us. So we now have to read the information carefully. The first question says, how many teachers own rabbits? How many teachers own rabbits? So we need to have a look at our rabbit column, and that's this one here. So if we look down, Miss Williams doesn't own a rabbit, neither does Miss Lewis. Miss Amanpour does, that's one teacher. Miss Gossage doesn't, and Mrs. Mirza doesn't, so only one. So how many teachers own rabbits? The answer is just one. How many pets does Miss Lewis own? So you find Miss Lewis and we go across. She owns a dog and a snake, 2. She owns 2. Which teachers own dogs? So I'd like you to pause the video now and I'd like you to work out which teachers own the dogs. So you're going to look in the dog section and you're going to find which ones got the ticks and which teachers they coincide with. So pause the video now to work through that for me, please. Okay, so Miss Williams has got a dog, Miss Lewis has got a dog, and Miss Gossage has got a dog. So I don't know if you got that right. Which is the most common pet? So most common means there's the most, who's the one most teachers have got. So for example, cat, 2 teachers have that. Dog, 3 teachers have got that. A rabbit, 1 teacher's got that. Snake, 2 teachers have got it. And a bird, 1 teacher's got it. So I'd like you to have a look at that and tell me which one is the most common. And then your question 5, it says, which teachers only own 1 pet? So I'd like you to pause the video and work through those 2 questions for me. Okay, so the most common pet is a dog. 1, 2, 3. It's got 3 teachers own the dog, whereas the others are either 2 or 1. And the teachers that only own 1 pet, if you go across, Miss Williams owns 2, Miss Lewis owns 2, Miss Amanpour owns 1, Miss Gossage owns 2, and Miss Mirza owns 2. So which teachers only own 1? It is just Miss Amanpour. Hopefully that makes sense for you there. Let's have a look at another table. So these are all tables with the information in it or the data inside it. This table shows a number of points scored during 2 weeks of PE lessons. So you've got the teams and how many of this scored in week 1 and how many scored in week 2. So for example, team A scored 10 points in week 1 and 8 points in week 2. Team B scored 5 points in week 1 and 9 points in week 2. Answer the questions about the table. What is the difference between team E's points from week 1 to week 2? So we are focusing on team E for now, which is this one down here. And it says, what is the difference? Now we've done that before because we looked at money. What is the difference between team E's points from week 1 to week 2? So you need to see how many more did they get in week 2 from week 1. So you could do week 2 score, subtract week 1, or put week 1 score in your head and count on to get to week 2. Try and work that one out for me. Okay, if you've got 4, well done, that's fantastic. The difference between week 1 and week 2 is 4. Which teams scored more points in week 2 compared to week 1? So now we're not focusing on team E anymore, looking at all of them. And we're looking at which one scored more in week 2 after some practice than week 1. Team A, they didn't score more in week 2. They scored 8 in week 2, but they scored more in week 1. Team B, they scored more in week 2. So we know that team B did. Team C, they didn't, they scored the same. Team D, they did, they scored more in week 2. Team E, they did, they scored 8 in week 2, but only 4 in week 1. And team F also did, they scored 9 in week 2 and 7 in week 1. So which team scored more points in week 2 compared to week 1? They were teams B, D, E, and F. Those ones that I've just underlined there. And then the last question, it says, which team had the biggest difference in points from week 1 to week 2? So we can have a look at this together. So the points from week 1 to week 2, the difference between these two is 2 points. This is 10 and that's 8. The difference between there is 2. So I'm going to write 2 there. Just so I'm going to write these down just so I remember them. That is a 2. It looks like a 1. That looks like a terrible one. I can't even accept that on there, so I'm going to rewrite it. Point score between there is 2. Between 5 and 9 is 4. 5 in my head, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's 4 points difference. So I'm going to put 4 there. I'd like you to pause the video. I'd like you to work out the difference for the other 4 teams, please. So pause the video now and go through those for me. Okay, hopefully you've got the score for all of them. So this one is 0 because they're exactly the same. This one is 1. This one was 4. And this one, 7 in my head, 8, 9 is 2. So the question says, which team had the biggest difference? Which team had the biggest difference from week 1 to week 2? Now this one, team B and team E, both had 4 in the difference. However, if it's saying from week 1 to week 2, this one is 5 to 9 and this one is 4 to 8. So I'm going to say both of them. So I think the question is wrong. And I think it should say which teams had the biggest difference in points from week 1 to week 2. And I'm going to say teams B and team E. They both had 4 difference. Okay, well done. Let's keep going. This table shows how long it took Sam to walk to school each day of the week. Create a true or false statement about this table. So we can discuss these in a live lesson. We can discuss these when we come back after half term if we're able to, or you can just write them down and I can have a look at them when you put them on Tapestry. So a true or false statement about this table. So my statement might be that, so this is the walk time and the afternoon time of days of the week that it took Sam to walk to school. So I'm going to say true or false, it took Sam the same amount of time on Monday morning to walk to school than it did for him to walk on Wednesday afternoon. And that is true because I've got 15 minutes there and 15 minutes there. I'd like you to pause the video now and I'd like you to write down a true and false statement for me. I'm going to challenge you a little bit more about this table. And if you put it onto Tapestry, I will have a look at it and I will try and answer it for you. So it needs to be true or false statement about this table here. So I've given you a true statement. I'd like you to think of your own true statement and your own false statement. Okay, it's your turn. So you're going to choose between activity 1, activity 2, and activity 3, and then you can challenge yourself with the challenge questions. So this is activity 1. 5 children have placed their lunch order for the day. Answer the questions about the table. So you've got a sandwich, a wrap, crisps, apple and banana, and the children at the side. And it's asking you the questions about this table. You've got to look at it carefully where the ticks are. And this is a bit like the pet question for the teachers. Question 2, sorry, activity 2. The table shows the cinema attendance for 2 different films over a week. Use the table. So this is film 1, this is film 2. And it says the attendance is how many people went to see it. So on Monday, 43 people went to see film 1 and 55 people went to see film 2. So you can try and work it out like that. Use the table to answer the questions carefully. So have a look carefully and it might ask you to try and work out what this space is. I think that's an E question. It tells you how to try and work that out. So have a look at those for me. And activity 3, the table shows how long Jay spent reading in the morning and the afternoon each school day. This is how long he spent reading in the morning. On Monday, he spent 5 minutes in the morning and 20 minutes in the afternoon, etc., etc. And then you've got true or false. So you've got to explain the false statements. So it says, Jay always reads for longer in the afternoon than in the morning. Now, if you think that's false, so it's not true, you need to explain why you think it's not true. So make sure you do that really carefully. You need to explain it for me. Writing just false will not get you the mark. You need to explain why it's false. And then your challenges today, you've got one here that says, Shelley writes the following statements using the information. Spot 3 mistakes she has made. Both teams have more home games. 43 games were played in total. Foxley Wanderers played away twice as many times as Liverpool FC, and the total home games of both teams together is double the total away games. You need to work out all of those facts to see if they are correct looking at this table. There's 3 mistakes that she's made. And then this challenge, your last challenge, it says, Billy creates some questions using the table below. So we've got aeroplane, ferry, car and train, north of England and south of England. And you've got some questions to go with that. For example, how many people use aeroplanes to go on holiday? So you can use that, and it's going to be looking at both of those. You might be doing adding some larger numbers. I hope that all makes sense. Any questions, put them onto Tapestry and we'll answer when we get back, or I will respond to you on Tapestry. Work through those really carefully and make sure you're reading the questions carefully as well. Good luck and have a lovely half-term Pankhurst class, and we'll see you on the computer when we come back, and hopefully in person in school very, very soon. Stay safe over half term, and I'll see you soon. Bye.